Day 1. Oklahoma City outskirts, 6:17 p.m. The bite was small, barely more than a crescent of broken skin on Junie's forearm. But Elias knew better than to hope. He stared at it, hands trembling, as the girl whimpered in his arms. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts. Blood trickled down her elbow, dark against the dust-caked concrete. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." The hollow didn't he always scream. Sometimes they just watched, silent, waiting. One had lunged from the shadows of the old gas station, faster than it had any right to be. Elias had killed a knife to the base of the skull, but not before it sank its teeth into Junie's arm. 7 days. That's all they had. He tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped the wound tight. It wouldn't stop the infection, but it might slow it. Maybe. Junie looked up at him, eyes wide and wet. "Daddy, am I gonna turn?" Elias swallowed the lump in his throat. "Not if I can help it." He hoisted her onto his back and turned toward the city's skyline, jagged and broken against the blood-orange sky. Somewhere in that concrete graveyard was a cure. Or a lie. Either way, he was going to find it. And God help anyone who got in his way. Day 2. Abandoned suburb, 11:43 a.m. The morning sun filtered through the skeletal remains of trees, casting long shadows over the cracked pavement. Elias moved like a ghost, Junie strapped to his back, her fever rising. She hadn't spoken since dawn. He'd made it to the edge of the old Nichols Hills neighborhood, once a place of manicured lawns and luxury SUVs. Now it was a graveyard of rusted metal and silence. Perfect place for an ambush. He ducked behind a burned-out sedan, scanning the street. A flicker of movement, just a glint on a rooftop 2 houses down. Sniper. Elias dropped low, heart pounding. He whispered. Junie hauled on, and slipped into the overgrown yard of a nearby house. The grass was waist-high, the air thick with the scent of mildew and rot. He needed to get off the street. But inside the house, the floor creaked under his boots. He moved room to room, checking corners, always listening. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper and dried blood. A child's drawing still clung to the fridge, stick figures, a son, a dog. He paused. Junie used to draw like that. A voice crackled through a speaker, raspy, male close. "You recarrying a kid, that makes you slow. Drop your gear and walk away." Elias didn't answer. He crept to the window and spotted the speaker, a man in scavenged military gear, rifle trained on the front yard. "You've got 5 seconds before I put one through your leg." Elias reached into his pack and pulled out a smoke grenade, one of the few things he'd salvaged from a National Guard outpost weeks ago. He yanked the pin and tossed it through the window. The world went white. Gunfire erupted, wild and panicked. Elias sprinted through the back door, cutting through the alley, lungs burning. He didn't stop until he reached the edge of the neighborhood, where the sniper wouldn't follow. He collapsed behind a dumpster, panting. Junie stirred on his back, murmuring something he couldn't make out. He checked her forehead. Burning up. They were running out of time. Midtown ruins, 3:12 p.m. The sun was high, but the streets were dark, shadows cast by the skeletal remains of high rises and collapsed overpasses. Elias moved through the ruins like a hunted animal, Junie's weight growing heavier with every step. He ducked into an old pharmacy, long since looted. Shelves lay overturned, glass crunched underfoot. He wasn't looking for supplies, he needed a place to rest, just for a moment. That's when he heard a soft, rhythmic breathing. Not hollow. Not quite human either. He raised his knife and crept toward the sound. Behind the counter, curled in the fetal position, was a girl, maybe 20, maybe younger. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. Veins like spiderwebs traced her neck and arms. Her eyes were shut, but flickering beneath the lids. Then she opened them. Pupilless. Milky white. Hollow eyes. Elias lunged. But she didn't move. Didn't scream. Just whispered, "Done tea." He froze, blade inches from her throat. "I am not like them," she said. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't used it in days. Not fully. Elias didn't lower the knife. He reinfected. She nodded. "But I haven't turned, not all the way. I can walk among them. They don't see me." Bullshit. "Then kill me," she said, baring her neck. "But if you're heading to the medical center, you won't make it without me." Elias's heart pounded. He didn't trust her. couldn't he? But Junie was burning up. They were running out of time. He looked down at his daughter, then back at the girl. What's your name? Call me Wren. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he lowered the knife. Stay ahead of me. You make one wrong move. I know, Wren said, already on her feet. He will put me down. She turned and walked into the street, barefoot and silent. The Hollow were out there, dozens of them, but they didn't even glance her way. Elias followed, Junie still clinging to life on his back. He didn't know if he'd just made the worst mistake of his life, but he was out of options. Would you like to continue into day 3, where we explore Wren's backstory and uncover a clue about the cure? Or should we pause and flesh out Wren's character a bit more first? Day 3. Outbreak 9:27 a.m. The Hollow didn't breathe. That's how Elias could tell them apart from the dead silence of the city. They stood like statues in the street, dozens of them, heads tilted, mouths slack, eyes empty. Elias crouched behind a rusted dumpster, heart hammering. Wren walked straight through them, barefoot and calm, like a ghost in a dream. They didn't even twitch. She turned back and motioned for him to follow. Elias hesitated. Every instinct screamed no. But Junie whimpered on his back, her fever worse than ever. He gritted his teeth and stepped into the open. The Hollow didn't move. He followed Wren through the gauntlet of monsters, each step a prayer. When they finally ducked into an alley and out of sight, Elias collapsed against the wall, gasping. How? He demanded. Wren didn't answer right away. She knelt beside Junie, brushing a strand of hair from the girl's sweat-slicked forehead. You said you really not like them, Elias growled. Start explaining. Wren sat back, eyes distant. I was part of a trial, early days of the outbreak. They were trying to develop immunity using live samples. I was one of the volunteers. You volunteered for this? I was dying anyway, she said. Stage 4 lymphoma. I figured, what did I have to lose? Elias stared at her, stunned. They gave me a modified strain, slowed the infection, changed it. I don't turn, not fully, but I am not human anymore either. He looked at her arms, veins like frostbite, skin like wax. Urea carrier. She nodded. And I am the only one left. Elias's mind reeled. If she was telling the truth, she might be the key to everything. A living bridge between human and Hollow. Why help me? He asked. Wren looked at Junie again. Because I remember what it's like to be someone's daughter. Later that day, 4:41 p.m. Underground tunnel system. They moved through the storm drains beneath the city, dark, wet, echoing. Wren led the way, her step sure. Elias followed, flashlight flickering. They reached a rusted door marked with a faded biohazard symbol. Wren stopped. This is it, she said. One of the old research bunkers, the ones they sealed when everything went to hell. Elias stepped forward, heart pounding. You think the cure's in there? I think the people who made me were. She pried the door open. The air that spilled out was cold and sterile. Inside, rows of broken lab equipment, shattered vials, and blood-stained walls. But also a terminal. Still powered. Flickering. Wren moved to it, fingers flying across the keys. There's a file here, coordinates, south of the city, another lab. Elias leaned over her shoulder. Is it real? I don't know, she said. But it's the only lead we've got. Suddenly, Junie screamed. Elias spun around. She was convulsing, eyes rolling back, foam at her lips. Wren rushed to her side. She's entering stage 2. We don't have much time. Elias's hand shook. How long? 2 days, maybe less. He looked at the screen, at the coordinates, at Wren. Then he made his choice. We move at dawn. Flashback, the first night. 7 years ago, Oklahoma City, ER2, 14 a.m. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the chaos. Elias Rourke moved between gurneys like a man possessed, blood on his scrubs, sweat on his brow, adrenaline in his veins. The ER was full. Overflowing. People screaming, convulsing, bleeding from the eyes. No one knew what was happening. The news said it was a new strain of rabies. The CDC said it was under control. They were wrong. Elias leaned over a patient, a man in his 30s, eyes wild, teeth gnashing. He was strapped to the bed, but barely. Foam bubbled at his lips. BPS crashing, the nurse shouted. Elias reached for the defibrillator. Clear. The man's body jolted. Once. Twice. Then he flatlined. Elias stepped back, chest heaving. Call it. The nurse hesitated. Elias. He looked down. The man's eyes were open again. And they were wrong. Milky white. Hollow. The man lunged, snapping the restraints like paper. He sank his teeth into the nurse's throat before Elias could even scream. Later that night at Elias's home, Elias burst through the front door, covered in blood. His wife, Maura, stood in the kitchen holding Junie, just 2 years old, on her hip. What happened? She asked, eyes wide. We have to go, Elias said. And now? He grabbed a go bag from the closet, one he'd packed months ago during the first whispers of the outbreak. Maura followed him, confused and afraid. Elias, what is going on? He looked at her, really looked at her. The woman he'd married. The mother of his child. The only person who could still calm the storm inside him. They were not sick, he said. They were changing. The escape. They drove through the night, sirens wailing in the distance, fires lighting up the horizon. The city was falling apart. Roads blocked. Military checkpoints overrun. People screaming in the streets. They made it as far as the outskirts before the car broke down. Elias carried Junie. Maura ran beside him. They found shelter in an abandoned church. Warded the doors. Waited. That night, Elias held his daughter close and whispered promises he wasn't sure he could keep. We'll be okay, he said. I'll protect you, both of you. But by morning, Maura was gone. Taken by the hollow while Elias slept. He never forgave himself. Back to the present underground bunker. Elias sat beside Junie, watching her chest rise and fall. Her skin was pale. Her breathing shallow. Wren sat across from him, silent. You ever lose someone? He asked. Wren didn't look up. Everyone. Elias nodded. Me too. He reached into his coat and pulled out a photo crease, faded. Maura smiling. Junie in her arms. I couldn't save her, he said. But I want fail Junie. Wren looked at him, something unreadable in her eyes. Then we better move fast. Day 4. South of Oklahoma City, 3 a.m. The road was cracked and overgrown, swallowed by nature in time. Elias pushed a stolen dirt bike through the brush, Junie strapped to his chest, her fever worsening. Wren walked beside him, silent as ever, eyes scanning the horizon. They were heading toward the coordinates from the bunker, an old research facility buried in the woods near Lake Thunderbird. If the cure existed, it would be there. But Elias couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. Midday the ghost of Wren passed. They reached a collapsed overpass, the road blocked by rusted vehicles and tangled rebar. As they climbed over the wreckage, a voice rang out. I didn't think I'd ever see you again, Wren. Elias spun, gun raised. A man stepped from the shadows, tall, gaunt, wearing a scavenged lab coat over body armor. His face was scarred, but his eyes were sharp. Calculating. Wren froze. Hello, Dr. Kessler, she said. Elias looked between them. Friend of yours? Creator, Wren said bitterly. Kessler smiled. She was patient zero, the only one who didn't turn. We thought she was the cure. Turns out she was just different. He stepped closer. You shouldn't have left, Wren. You belong to science. Elias raised his weapon. She belongs to no one. Kessler didn't flinch. You're wasting time. That girl on your chest, she has already gone. You just don't see it yet. Wren stepped between them. We're going to the lab. You can stop us. Kessler's smile faded. No, but they can. He whistled. From the trees figures emerged, half hollow, like Wren. Twisted, twitching, but not mindless. Controlled. Elias grabbed Wren's arm. On. The chase. They sprinted through the woods, dodging branches and roots, the half hollow in pursuit. Wren moved like she knew the terrain. Elias followed, Junie's weight slowing him down. They reached an old ranger station and barricaded the door. Inside, Elias collapsed, gasping. Wren locked the door and turned to him. That was Kessler's private project. He has been trying to make more like me. Why? Elias asked. Because he thinks we're the future, a new species, not human, not hollow, something in between. Elias looked down at Junie. Her eyes fluttered. Her skin was cold. She doesn't have time for this. Wren nodded. Then we go to the lab, tonight. That night before the final push. Elias sat by the window, watching the moon rise. Wren sat across from him, sharpening a blade. "You still trust me?" she asked. "No," Elias said. "But I trust that you want to stop him." Wren looked at Junie. "She reminds me of my sister." "You had a sister?" Wren nodded. "She didn't he make it?" They sat in silence for a while. Then Elias stood. "Let us finish this." Day 5. Abandoned farmhouse, 6:19 a.m. The wind howled through the broken windows, carrying the scent of rot and rain. Elias sat on the floor, cradling Junie in his arms. Her skin was pale as ash, her lips cracked and dry. She hadn't opened her eyes since midnight. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Every few minutes her body twitched small, involuntary spasms that made Elias's heart seize. Wren stood by the door, watching. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. They both knew what this meant. "She has not gone," Elias whispered more to himself than anyone else. "She is still in there." Wren didn't answer. Junie's mind somewhere between. Inside her fevered mind, Junie wandered a dreamscape of memories and shadows. She saw her mother's face soft smiling. She saw Elias, younger, laughing as he spun her in circles. But the light was fading. Darkness crept in at the edges. Whispers. Hunger. A voice that wasn't hers, curling around her thoughts like smoke. "Let go." She screamed, but no sound came out. Back in the real world, 10:42 a.m. Elias soaked a rag in rainwater and dabbed Junie's forehead. Her eyes fluttered open just for a second. "Daddy," she rasped. "I am here," he said, choking back tears. "I am right here." She tried to speak again, but her body convulsed. Her back arched. Her fingers curled into claws. Wren rushed over, holding her down. "She is entering stage 3. "No," Elias growled. "Not yet, we read too close." "She is going to turn." "Then we move now." Final push 3:17 p.m. They left the farmhouse behind, Elias carrying Junie in his arms, her body limp and burning. Wren led the way, guiding them through the woods toward the lap. The rain came down in sheets. Thunder rolled across the sky. The world felt like it was ending all over again. They reached a ridge overlooking the facility, an old CDC satellite lab half buried in the earth, surrounded by rusted fence and crawling with hollow. Elias stared down at it, jaw clenched. "That is it?" he asked. Wren nodded. "That is where I was made." Junie stared in his arms, her eyes flickering open. But they weren't her eyes anymore. They were hollow. Elias froze. "Junie?" he whispered. She blinked. For a moment the white faded. Her voice was barely audible. "Don't let me go." Elias held her tighter. "I won't." Wren stepped beside him. "We go in at nightfall. It is our only chance." Elias didn't look away from his daughter. She doesn't have until nightfall. Day 6. CEC satellite lap 2:03 a.m. The storm had passed, but the air was thick with tension. The lab loomed ahead, half buried in the earth, its reinforced doors rusted and cracked. Hollows swarmed the perimeter, twitching and snarling, drawn to something inside. Wren crouched behind a fallen tree, scanning the entrance. "There is a breach in the west wall. If we move fast, we can get in before they notice." Elias nodded, cradling Junie in his arms. Her skin was cold. Her eyes flickered between human and hollow. She was slipping. "We don't have time," he said. "She is almost gone." They moved. Inside the lab 2:17 a.m. The interior was a tomb. Flickering lights. Blood on the walls. Broken glass and overturned equipment. But the servers were still humming. The cure, if it existed, was here. Wren rushed to the terminal. "I need time to decrypt the files." Elias laid Junie on a table, brushing her hair from her face. "You hang on, baby, just a little longer." Then the alarms blared. The hollow had breached the outer wall. They were coming. They attacked 2:31 a.m. The first wave hit hard, screeching, clawing, tearing through the lab like a flood of death. Elias fought like a man possessed, knife in one hand, pistol in the other. Wren dragged Junie behind a barricade, shielding her with her body. "We can hold them," Wren shouted. Elias looked at Junie, barely conscious, her breath shallow. Then he made the choice. He scooped her up and shoved her into Wren's arms. "Take her," he said. "Go on." "What? No." "Go on." Wren hesitated. Then she turned and bolted, Junie in her arms. Elias turned to face the swarm. The last stand 2:39 a.m. A hollow hit him like a tidal wave. Teeth sank into his arms, his side, his neck. Blood poured from him. But he didn't fall. He kept fighting, kept buying them time. As Wren reached the tree line, she turned back, and saw him still standing, covered in blood, surrounded by monsters. Then he disappeared beneath them. Later that night, safe house. Wren laid Junie on a cot, her hand shaking. She found a vial in the lab labeled Prototype 3A. It was untested, unstable, but it was all they had. She injected it into Junie's arm. The girl screamed, then went still. Dawn 6:12 a.m. Junie opened her eyes. They were clear. Human. Wren collapsed beside her, sobbing. But Elias didn't come. Epilogue fragment weeks later. They found him near the river, barely alive. His body was broken, his blood tainted. The infection hadn't taken his mind, but it had taken everything else. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at the sky, as if waiting for something, or someone. Day 7. Safe house 7:03 a.m. Junie slept, her breathing steady for the first time in days. The prototype cure had worked, at least for now. The fever was gone. Her eyes were clear. She was alive. Wren sat beside her, watching the girl's chest rise and fall. She hadn't told her yet. About Elias. About what they'd found. She didn't know how. Search 10:47 a.m. Riverbank ruins. Wren and 2 other survivors from a nearby enclave followed the trail of blood and broken branches to the river. That's where they found him. Elias. Barely breathing. His body torn open. Eyes sunken. Skin graying. But he was still there. Elias, Wren whispered, kneeling beside him. His eyes flicked toward her. Recognition. Pain. And something else, fear. Junie, he rasped. She's safe, Wren said. She made it. A tear slid down his cheek. Then his body convulsed. The change had begun. Final choice 11:12 a.m. They brought him back to the safe house, restrained and sedated. Wren worked through the night trying to stabilize him. But the infection was too deep. Too advanced. He wasn't like her. He couldn't hold it back. By morning he was gone. Not dead. Turned. July 6:0 a.m. Junie's awakening. Junie stirred, blinking against the morning light. Wren was there, smiling softly. Where's my dad? She asked. Wren hesitated. Then she knelt beside the bed and took Junie's hand. He saved you, she said. Fought through the whole night, held them off until we got to you. Junie's eyes filled with tears. Did he make it? Wren swallowed the truth. No, she whispered. But he didn't stop fighting, not for a second. Junie nodded, tears falling silently. I knew he wouldn't leave me. Wren held her close, her own heart breaking. Epilogue fragment weeks later. Junie never saw what became of her father. She never saw the hollow that stood at the edge of the woods some nights, watching the safe house from the shadows. Still, silent, as if remembering, as if waiting.